Okay, guys, so this was the full relative pronoun. So we've now met how to say who or which in Latin, in any case, any number, and any gender. Remember, generally the word will start with a Q unless it's genitive or dative singular, in which case it's that weird word beginning with a C. So we're going to look at the use of this word now. The page to read firstly is 183. There's a lot of information on there, but you can read through that and then watch this video and it will break down exactly what's being said. So let's look at this first sentence. Puer qui puellam amat in foro est. The first thing that we noticed, because we're talking about them at the moment, is that we've got qui, the relative pronoun. That word could either be masculine nominative singular or masculine nominative plural. Now we see at the start of the sentence that we've got the word puer, the boy. So it's very likely that qui here is going to be singular rather than plural, and then it's going to be referring to that boy. Now you might look at this sentence and think, right, puer, and then est on the end. There's my verb, so it's the boy is something or other. But if you look at the whole sentence, you'll spot that there's another verb here, amat. Okay, and that's because this section here is something called a relative clause. Okay, what that means is it's almost like an extra sentence within the sentence that we already have. And grammatically speaking, you could completely ignore the relative clause and the rest of the sentence would still make sense. So puer in foro est would mean the boy is in the forum. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't sound weird at all. And that's because a relative clause, so a clause beginning with the word qui, quai, quod, whatever case you want, tells you extra information. It's not necessary, but it's telling you extra information. So what you can do is bracket off the relative clause like I have done here and translate the rest of the sentence and then come back to the relative clause. So the boy is in the forum, qui puellam amat, who loves the girl. But that does sound a little bit weird. So we've got to think about who the qui refers to. We know it's masculine, we know it's singular, so it's referring to that boy. So how about then the boy who loves the girl is in the forum? Makes total sense. Now let's talk a little bit about the grammar of that word qui. As I've written underneath there, and you can write this in your books as a note. So qui takes number and gender from the thing it describes. Now what I mean by that is this word qui has taken its number singular and its gender masculine from the word puer, because that's the word that it was describing. Okay, so it's masculine and it's singular because puer is masculine and singular. It's got to agree, just like an adjective would with a noun. But the next little point, it takes its case from its place in the relative clause. Now, luckily, here, it's not too complicated because the main sentence, the main clause, and the relative clause, in both of them, the boy is nominative. Okay. So, because within that relative clause, it's the boy who loves the girl, that qui needs to be nominative because they're doing the loving. Let's look at one where this changes a little bit. So if we have a look at this second sentence, libertus quem heri vidi in foro est. So the first thing we notice is quem, okay? Quem is accusative. It's masculine, it's singular, but it's accusative. So let's think about the fact that it's masculine and singular. Remember, it takes its number and gender from the thing it describes. So that must mean that something masculine and singular is in the main clause that quem is referring to. Libertus here is masculine and singular. So quem must be referring to the freed man. Now let's see if we can spot where the relative clause is. So as from the previous sentence, we've got est on the end here, but we've also got another verb, vidi, I saw. Okay, so here is your relative clause. So let's look up at the bits around the relative clause first. Libertus in foro est, the freed man is in the forum. Very straightforward sentence. But quem is accusative, okay? And vidi means I saw, heri just means yesterday. So if you were going for really posh, proper English, you would actually say the freed man, whom I saw yesterday, is in the forum. I think you can just about get away with saying the freedman who I saw yesterday is in the forum. It's not actually correct English, but it's just become part of our idiom nowadays. But the main point is that you spot that quem is accusative, because yes, libertus here at the start is nominative, but within that relative clause, quem heri vidi, that freed man is the one who's being looked at. So he needs to become accusative, which is why quem needs to be accusative. Okay, so that's why, as written above, the Q word takes its number and gender from the thing it describes, but it takes its case from its place within the relative clause. Okay.